Thanks so much for tuning in to Mom Boss Chronicles. My name is Jen.
This is Sue.
And this is Danielle.
We are three moms that work together in real estate and are good friends, and here to talk to you about fun topics, the good, the bad, the ugly of mom struggles, real estate, and other fun stuff. So make sure to subscribe to listen to more.
Welcome back to Mom Boss Chronicles. Today we have my good friend Dana Danizik here, fellow mom boss and momtrepreneur, as I like to call her. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here with you ladies.
Yeah, so Dana, her and her husband, Dan, they own a couple of companies. They have a title company, Leo Fortis Title Agency, and a credit repair company, Square One Credit, thank you. And yeah, she actually left the corporate world to be an entrepreneur. So we just want to hear a little bit about that, how you got into it, how you made that jump, why you made that jump, and how you balance. She has twins too.
Wow.
7-year-old, right? They're
Yes.
Wow. 7-year-old twins. So it's a lot.
Yes, definitely. So as you mentioned, I spent 15 years of my career in corporate America. So I started as a sales assistant working for a fashion company. And over those 15 years, gradually worked my way up from a sales assistant making a very low salary, pushing apparel carts around the streets of New York City selling wholesale. To the president of one of the divisions of the company. Yeah, so spent a lovely 15 years there and became president of one of the divisions, managed almost $1 billion worth of business.
Wow.
Had a team of 120 people, but as you mentioned, at that point in my life, had twins and had 3-year-old twins.
Wow.
And it
And
was
were you commuting?
Yes, commuting to Manhattan every single day, 2 hours each way, leaving. Yeah,
I did the same, so I feel your
it's a
pain.
lot.
I cannot imagine doing
No.
that.
No.
No.
And I
Even
would.
before kids, I couldn't imagine.
Right,
I
yeah.
didn't want to do that. So even with kids,
Sounds
that's-
exhausting.
and twins.
Yes.
So you were
yes,
getting up super early.
4
Yes.
hours of your day.
Yeah.
4
I know.
hours.
Yeah.
Getting up at 5,
Wow.
trying to go to the gym and work out.
Oh my God.
Before.
You need a medal.
Yes.
Wow.
Then getting on the train, working a full day, 7:45 to 5:45, getting on a train home, and walking in the door at 7:45, seeing your kids for 15 minutes,
Right.
and then putting them to bed.
And then you're exhausted, I'm sure.
Exhausted. And
Yeah.
the hard part was you'd long all day to see your kids, but then the minute you got home, you wanted time for yourself too. So it was always this rush to get to the weekend or to
my
get to
gosh, yeah.
Friday,
Yeah.
to not be working, to not be commuting, and to actually
living for the
enjoy time.
weekends.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So COVID hit, and it was the first time in my life I was home and I was in my house working remotely with
and at
my
this
kids.
time, is your husband also building business?
Yes.
So he's busy. So it's not even you're
Yes.
both very hardworking, busy people with little kids.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So at that time, we had relocated to Monmouth County about 5 years before. Previously, we had lived in Bergen County.
Okay.
So we had transferred both companies from northern New Jersey down to central New Jersey, both the title insurance company as well as the credit management company. And, we were building our network down here at the
is a lot of
same
work.
time,
Yeah.
which is, as you
Yeah.
all know, is a ton of work. So you're out breakfast, lunch, dinner, networking events.
Hustling.
Hustling.
Yeah.
Grinding, building a team, building a customer service team, managing an office. And 2020, let's face it, that was the height of the real estate market then too. So both on the credit side as well as the title side, our business was booming.
Wow.
Both leading up to 2020 as well as in that moment.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, we went from me not really being home to I was home with the kids. And I was working from home and I was there, in the morning when they woke up and throughout the day, and started to really realize, I think, everything that I was ultimately missing out on by not being home.
Because how old are they now?
They were 3
Wow, in 2020.
in 2020.
Yeah.
They were
And
3.
what a sweet age, right?
Yes.
You're like, oh, this is so sweet. Want
Sweet.
to soak it in.
Yes,
Yeah.
sweet age. We were blessed while I was working. We had great help.
Yeah.
But I was missing all of that.
Yeah.
And, we had someone living with us who was helping us with the kids during that time and supporting us to be able to work like that and, have these long hours, but still, ensure that the kids obviously were well taken care of, happy, healthy, safe, and in a great playful environment.
That's awesome.
So I spent 3 months at home working remotely for the company I was working for, and the business just obviously took a nosedive. Retail stores were closed, our sales were down. I was an executive, and I worked for a male-dominated, family-run business.
Oh, wow. As a woman?
As a woman, as a high-paid woman. And, when it came time when the business got tough for them to cut overhead and cut staff, they looked really at their executive team to do that, which made sense.
Yeah, the high salaries.
Absolutely. But I think it was the best breakup I could ever have.
The universe really delivered.
Yes.
100%. It did something you might not have done on your own.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
No. And
It was a blessing, but at the time, I'm sure it felt stressed.
stressed, yeah, exactly. It was a blessing in the sense of I don't have to return to the city now right away.
Yeah.
I was finally forced to take the time to decide, what do I want to do next with my career, but how do I also in this moment have a better work-life balance? And at the same time, spend some time with my kids, take a breather, and decide, ultimately what's next or what could be next.
Yeah.
So that happened, but scary because you go from, and I think this is the transition from, being an employee in a leadership role to an entrepreneur because you had this very stable, steady paycheck.
You were jumping into the unknown.
Yes.
Literally. You were going from the known, your consistent routine, to literally the unknown.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That can be scary.
Very.
Yeah.
So
Did your husband, did he support you? Or?
Yes.
Yeah.
So he was amazing. He, he said for 15 years you've paid your dues, you've worked like crazy. Now take the time, take the summer. It was perfect timing too. It was June when this happened.
Yeah, sit outside.
Yeah. So he said, take the summer, take a few months, and think about what you want to do.
I love that.
So it was funny. I started going to his office during this time frame.
Was he still busy?
He was still busy.
Yeah.
He was still working. And after a couple of months, I was like, I need to do my resume. I need
in your mind, you're going back to corporate?
yes.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I'm going back to corporate. I'm like, I need to do my resume. I got to get out and start talking to people. I have to have phone calls, but I can't do this at home with two little kids. So I started going to his office a lot to do some of these things. And sort of started to get a sense of, I always knew what it entailed, the companies he ran, but didn't understand, of course, until you're in it, the day to day. So I started to get to know a lot of people in the office. I got to hear some meetings. But at the same time, I still was pretty focused on tunnel vision of, no, I'm going back to work. I have my own independent career. And I don't know. I think something told me, I have to do this. So I went on a couple of interviews in the city. And every time I got on the train or in the car to go, I cried the whole way out.
I'm sure.
Like that.
Yes.
Not
Just sick over
what am I
it.
doing?
What am I doing?
Yeah.
So I would cry the whole way up thinking about how am I going to go back to this? What am I going to do? I'm going to have to leave the kids. And kind of this little hiatus of COVID is now over.
Yeah.
And
So
it
you were
just-
mourning it.
Yes, it made me really sad. So I would go up, I would cry, and then I'd come home. And then I'd think of a million excuses to not want to accept the job.
I'm sure you killed it in the interview.
Yes.
Yes.
So I would think of excuses. Oh, I don't think the company is, in growth mode, or I don't like the culture. And finally, this is actually a really funny story. So we were having a few drinks one night. My husband,
That's
me.
the best time to do some thinking.
Yes.
I did some good thinking after a couple of drinks. Yes, I feel you.
So it was my husband, me, and actually my parents. And we were having a couple of nice bottles of wine. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, my dad says, well, I don't get it. You guys dance companies are busier than ever. And my husband is a forward-thinking entrepreneur at heart. His mind is always wondering. He's always thinking about the next opportunity, how to make things better. And my dad, of course, recognizes those incredible traits in him.
Yeah.
So he's like, he's so great at that. And you're, Dana, a solid right hand. You're a great executor. You're a great strategist. You're great with numbers. You're great with finances and strategy. All of a sudden, he's like, well, why don't you two work together?
Like, wow,
so
what a pair.
funny.
It's like you're a good married couple. Maybe you could be a good pair in business.
So we kind of looked at each other and we're like, I don't think so. Like that's not going to work. No way.
because it had crossed your mind before.
No.
That's
And it was funny. No.
Not at all.
No.
Wow.
And it was funny because I think I just had tunnel vision of I had this job, I had this career,
That
I
was your path.
delivered X amount of revenue back
Right.
home. That was my path. He built these companies
Yeah.
himself
Right.
from the ground up, and that was his path. And we didn't blend those paths
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
So my dad's very persistent when, of course, when he has an opinion, and the conversation kept going on and kept going back to it. He's like, but again, I don't understand. He's like, you don't want to go to the city. You don't want to, you don't want to work for, another boss again. You want to be your own boss. You
wanna
want
be here
to,
more, yeah.
you want to be home more. You want a better work-life balance. And he's like, and every time I talk to your husband, I hear from him, I wish I had an executive I could count on, to execute my
Yeah.
vision and to support me and to drive this. So he's like, again, I'm going to just say this. Like, this makes no sense.
Hello.
And what was your first thought?
So as we're sitting there, he's like, just try it. He goes, you're, at that point, the kids had returned back to preschool. So he goes, you're not doing anything. Go sit in his office, get a desk, and see what happens. Like, just try it. Go in and learn and understand the business. And of course, my dad was funny. He's like, take a step back. Don't have an opinion. Don't try to correct it. Don't step into somebody else's
Right.
Yeah.
business that they've built.
Yeah.
And be overly critical or want to change things.
Right.
Understand it and grow together.
Yeah.
So it was funny. So we did that. So I started going to the office. Dan started involving me in a few different projects and ideas at that time. He wanted to launch a few different marketing campaigns. He wanted to redo his CRM system. He wanted to redo a lot of processes that we had. He wanted to launch a new state-of-the-art software.
There's a lot.
Yeah, for the credit company. And we were also in the process of, acquiring smaller title companies into Leo Fortis and hiring employees just across the board.
It's just a full-time job in itself.
Full-time job in and of itself.
Yeah.
So slowly but surely, it naturally evolved.
That's awesome.
I'd be lying if I didn't quit or get fired multiple times.
At first, was it easy or was it like?
I mean, if anybody worked, well, you know, you were,
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody works with their spouse, you
I work
definitely.
with my husband too, and there are times where I feel like we're really in a groove, and there are other times where I'm like, oh my gosh, we may kill each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So but that's I feel like any work relationship dynamic, and especially because you were describing how Dan is a visionary and you're the integrator.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a book out there, and it's erasing my mind right now, but it talks about that. Like, good businesses are built on the visionary and the integrator.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how crazy you guys are married.
Yes.
It's
Right.
great. You can
Yeah.
keep all the revenue under one roof.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
That's the best.
his best interest is your best interest.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think the most interesting thing throughout all of that too is the trust, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, everyone knows how hard it is today to find employees or to find a partner or to find someone that you can
Aligned.
align to
Yeah.
and trust and go through the really hard times together and go through the really good times together
Yeah.
and stay positive and get out of that.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing.
Totally.
And it was challenging at first because I came from corporate.
Mm-hmm.
So I came from having a large team, and when you needed something, typically you called someone.
You had someone to do that. Yeah.
You called someone or you assigned someone
Yes.
or you delegated a project
Yeah.
or things in corporate took time. You would have 3 months to work on
Yeah.
something. And it was funny, then transitioning to that
Mm-hmm.
to kind of having to understand okay, there might be less headcount and it might need to happen faster.
Mm-hmm.
Just how does all of that work? So ultimately the ideas or the concepts or the strategies are still the same, but how do you now figure this out in a much different environment?
And especially, I'm sure, working with your husband, who's probably used to things being done a certain way, and like you
Yes.
said, in corporate sense. So now you're trying to figure out how to work with each other.
Absolutely.
What does he expect? How does he expect this? What do I expect from him?
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's a dance.
Finding the groove.
Totally.
At least
Yeah.
with not being in corporate, there's less red tape. I mean, that's what I have found happens. Like,
and
I
that
was
was
in
the
corporate
beauty of
for
it.
15 years too. So like we're starting with real estate. I'm like, wow, you think of something and it gets done. Within, like
Not waiting 3 months to be
well,
like,
yeah, and then
Exactly.
someone saying, well, this isn't compliant or this doesn't go with whatever. Like, so
It was funny. I think one of the first things he had asked me to do, I was like, okay, I'll finish it like in 30 days. Or so I said something like crazy. It's like 30 days. He's like,
you're fired.
he's like, try Friday. Like, what else are you working on? And
I love
I was like,
that.
well, but I need the time to like research this and do this and look at different options and put together a proposal. He's like, really? Like, he's like, no. Like, and exactly to your point. Like,
Right.
he's like, there's no red tape. Like, if
Right.
we don't like it, we change it or we
pivot.
evolve or we
Yeah.
pivot or like we talk about it live. We don't talk about it in
Yeah.
an email.
Yeah.
So just culturally,
Right.
there was some things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then for him, it was also understanding being the entrepreneur and the visionary sometimes and not like in some of the tactical weeds of things.
Yeah.
It was him understanding too why it might take an employee so long to do
he's
something.
such a visionary. It's like,
Right.
I know you want this, but do you understand how much manpower has
Right.
to go
So
into
it goes
this?
behind
It's
it.
like, go.
Do you understand a human being needs to sit behind a computer and actually like, create a spreadsheet for that or create a vision?
Or find the people so we can do
Yes.
this. Yeah.
So certain things, like it was a lot of that.
The
And
minutia.
Yes. Both of us, I think it's interesting. Both of us love, pride ourselves on like ultimate customer service and relationships and trust and
awesome.
and reputation. So that part, that was easy.
That's awesome. Same like integrity.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So that part was an easy transition because both of us had been always in sales and like the face of a business or a brand. So both of us enjoy that. Now it's interesting, we both have completely different styles.
Yeah.
In terms of how we, ultimately sell our service or our business or, how we have those relationships and maintain them. But the principles are all the same. So that part was easy. It was more of the tactical stuff. And I think understanding each other's work style, because at the end of the day, I'm like, well, we got to go home. I have to love you because you're my husband.
Yeah, I know. Right?
I have to parent with you.
Yes.
I have to work with you now because we both,
It's I totally get it. I go home to my husband and we'll talk about work and he's like, please, we're home.
yes.
Can we turn this off? Like we'll do this tomorrow. We'll talk.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Exactly.
but my brain's going and he's the opposite. He's like, I need to decompress. Like we
Yes.
need to separate this. And it's important to do that. Because otherwise it'll
100%.
bleed into every aspect of your life and that's not good.
No.
Yeah.
And I learned that because like from my corporate life, it was, you were always on, you're always looking at your email or your boss could call you. You were just always on. And Dan was always good at like, he's always on if he needs to be, but if it could wait till tomorrow, it was, I don't need to talk about it
Yes.
or address it. So I think I learned like, I think one night it was 11 o'clock at night and we're like watching TV and the kids are sleeping and I'm like, did you read this email? And he's like,
Probably wants to
no.
rip your head off.
I'm going to rip your head off. Like, I'm not reading it and this is not how we're,
It's
going to
interesting,
do
like,
this.
So it took you time to decompress, right? Because it took me about a good year, maybe
Oh, yeah.
even longer.
wild.
Like I felt like I always had to be at least sitting at my desk until 6 o'clock every day.
Yes.
For what?
Yes.
Oh, I know what you mean.
Or like I have to respond to this. Like it's that knee
You were
jerk reaction.
conditioned.
You
Yes.
totally conditioned.
Yeah.
Like so it's
100%.
It feels validating.
It does. Well, and also it was interesting because coming from more of a corporate world, so much of your business or your relationship, it's emails, it's these big corporate meetings, it was less phone calls or like taking somebody out to lunch or going to an event where maybe you don't know anybody, but you have to meet individuals and then create those relationships. So it was interesting. Like there was definitely a few times where he's like, why are you emailing this person? Like call them, ask them for coffee, like go out to lunch, like, different things.
Right. Like actual business to me, that's real business development.
Yes.
Is
100%. It's much harder.
right.
Getting into relationship versus an email
Yes.
relationship.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think to your point too, learning how to like, it's funny, like I think so much of my career in sales, it was like you were gathering and harvesting. Like the relationships already existed. Like
Right.
I worked for a well-known apparel company that had a worldwide brand.
Right.
So you were just harvesting every relationship each year.
Yeah.
But with this, it's like you have to go out and actually hunt for your own
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
And that was the other part that was interesting at first, was also I felt like, how do you validate your value, right? Like I'm like, okay, I'm not bringing in any money anymore. I have to deliver, right?
Yeah.
So that was an interesting part at first too. And luckily I'm of the mindset of like, you put that pressure on yourself.
Oh,
like
sure.
I was like, okay, well, obviously now like there's a certain amount of revenue or money I have to deliver.
Add
Like
to
what
this.
are what are my goals? I have
Yes.
to add value.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting transition too.
Do you feel like once you started gaining traction, that like your confidence gets up, you're
Oh,
gaining
yeah.
more traction, you're like, oh shit, I
can
can
do
do a
this.
mom boss, I got this.
Oh
Because
yeah, now
honestly, at the end of the day, you were doing this for other people for how many
Right. Yes.
years? Literally, like your soul on the
Exactly.
table, and like now you're doing it for you and your family, and like
Yes.
and you get to see your kids.
Exactly. Totally. Now it's funny, like we'll get competitive. Like, like who got this meeting or who established this new connection
right.
or we'll laugh sometimes. We'll look at like who brought in more business this month. Like it gets it becomes fun.
Right.
That's awesome.
And there's a lot we do together. And there's a lot we do, separately, which is nice too, because, especially in these businesses, not everyone can form a relationship with everyone.
Yeah.
Some people, women maybe sometimes want to work with women, or men want to work with men, or a certain woman may like adjust better to my
Chemistry.
husband's personality
Right.
than mine.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's figuring that out and not getting offended by it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Because everyone's different. Like
Yeah.
understanding that, right?
Yeah.
Did you feel like you had anxiety, like working in corporate and
100%.
like you were like when one eyeball opened up in the morning, you were like, "Fuck, here we
Yes.
go."
Yes.
Let me look at my emails because that was.
100%. It's
And
funny.
now you like don't.
No, I don't think I realized. I said this like 6 months after. I don't think I realized how miserable I was because I think
You're in it.
yeah,
You're just in it. Yeah.
and you're rushing everything.
Right.
Like I just wanted to get through the week,
Yeah.
and it was like I wanted to get through the week. I didn't want to go out. You didn't want to socialize during the week because you're exhausted.
Yeah.
Like I just want the
what
kids.
time are you gonna go out? 8,
Yeah.
9 o'clock at night.
And then wake up at 5.
right.
Yeah.
Right, and it's like, who knows? Maybe it would have been different if your office was 15 minutes away. but,
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
4 hours. Each
4
day,
hours, yeah.
It's just, I mean, that's enough to kill you.
So now
That's
your
insane.
Yeah.
daily routine is totally different than when it was commuting because now you can do so much more.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. Like, I feel like it's interesting. Dan and I were talking about this morning. I'm like, now there's almost like, once you're able to do those things, get your kids on the bus, get your kids off the bus. Are they happy? Are they sad? How was their day? And
More
like
in
be
tune.
there for all the sports and the activities. I was like, this is almost now non-negotiable. Like
Yeah.
it's non-negotiable.
It's a
to not-
non-negotiable for me.
yeah, it's a non-negotiable priority now. Like
Totally.
I'll work really hard from like 8 to 3 and
love
then
that.
dial back in at 7
Right.
or till midnight.
Yeah,
but
if
like
you have to, which
you have
chances
to.
are you probably
Yeah.
don't because you're probably crushing it anyway. Like during 8
Yeah.
to 3.
exactly.
Right.
So it's just like how do you be, you could be more efficient, you could still do all these things. You still can have the lifestyle you want,
Yeah.
but you just have to work smarter.
Yeah.
And
Not harder. Like,
Yes.
Obviously, corporate, I felt like that, you had to work the 50 hours and to fill it, right?
Yes.
But if you couldn't get your work done in 35 hours, God
fine.
bless. It's
That's
amazing.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
exactly. And I think that the unique thing too is like figuring out it's so much easier now too to like prioritize your day, right? Because you're like certain things are a priority, certain things can wait
Yeah.
or be
Right.
done at a different time.
Yep.
And you get to make that judgment call.
Exactly.
Now it's like, I
not
get to
somebody
decide.
else.
Yes.
That's like you need to sit in this office till 6.
Yeah.
Or
today, if you have to be
Right.
home with a sick kid or whatever, then
you're home.
I guess
And you're
what?
not feeling bad
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
it.
Oh my
your
gosh,
your
that was
kid.
the
Oh, your
worst.
kid's sick.
Yes.
Or you're coming still, right? No. I remember I told my boss I was pregnant, and she's like, "Well, when are you due?" Because we had a huge event. I was like, she's like, "Okay, so you'll still be there."
But that was like the first thought.
crazy.
Yeah.
Right. It's
Yeah.
just
No, I remember my twins were 12 weeks and I went right back. You had to go right back to work. So it was
12 weeks.
3 months,
They're not
12
even
weeks.
sleeping at night. Oh my gosh.
We had a woman from Brazil come to live with us.
An
I
au
mean,
pair.
yes.
You needed that. Yes.
But like, talk about anxiety.
Oh
Like, I got to
my
go back to
God.
work. I have 2 little babies.
Oh my
now
God,
I
I
have
give you
this
so
woman
much
living in
credit.
the house to watch them.
Yeah.
Like, just
And your body's probably like
a mess.
Right. You're like, my
mind,
body's not healed, my mind's not
and
healed.
you're
my-
getting on the train and going
Yeah.
to the
leaving
city.
your babies.
Babies,
What
yeah.
a world we live in, right?
No.
I mean, it's so terrible.
To sell like kids apparel.
Right.
Yeah.
That was-
It's not
that, like, it was like I'm not curing, you
Yeah.
know, diseases
Right.
or
Not a
anything
doctor.
along those lines. But it's amazing the stress, like you said, how much stress you
Yeah.
put on yourself. And I don't think I realized until I was out of it, like
Right.
how anxious I was, or how miserable I was, or how tired I was.
Because even on the weekends when you were president, were you tired?
Tired, and you're irritated.
Yeah.
Like,
because
I was irritated
Sunday
all the time.
scaries.
Yeah.
They call it, right? Your Sundays are probably
by
like,
Sunday at 3, I was like miserable. I should have just went on the train.
Yeah. right.
I should
Literally.
have just gotten on the
Yeah.
train.
because
and
the
left.
anxiety
Right.
of the week coming up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's nerve wracking.
Yeah.
And then it's hard because you also, you bring it home with you.
Uh-huh.
And then you kind of like, you take it out, or you're tense on your significant other, or like, those nights, especially when the kids were younger and they're
Right.
waking up in the middle of the night. And I'm like, well, I got to
Yes.
get up in an hour.
Yeah.
Like, this is a mess.
Yeah.
It's hard.
That is so hard. I give you so much credit.
I remember I can't remember what company it was, but one of them, I remember like the director sent an email over the weekend, and like on Monday, I guess no one like had responded to it. So you guys aren't checking your emails on the week. Like that kind of like just
crazy.
it's nuts, right?
Yeah.
So
You're
crazy.
paying me overtime.
Right.
It's completely.
And now the nice part is like, I'll check on the weekend, but it's because I want to.
Yes.
And then
Like
it's
on your
I
terms.
wanna do it.
It's on your terms.
Yeah.
I want to do it, whether it's a call from like an affiliate partner, or it's a client, or it's a potential client.
Yeah.
Like, I want to take it.
And if you want to
I'll take
respond, you'll
those hours.
respond. You don't feel guilty. But if you don't want to, it's okay too.
Exactly.
You're in control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. I will say that you and Dan are such a great team. So
Yeah.
I met them. Dan was my son's baseball coach.
That's amazing. He's a busy entrepreneur, but he still took the time to coach his son's baseball
And
team.
it's so I'm like, who is this guy? He like has the biggest personality.
Yes.
It's so funny. And I think it was him. He found out I was a realtor and he emailed me.
It was me.
It was you?
I love it.
She did her due
Half the time
diligence.
I don't know who I'm texting because your names are, you just have an A at the end.
Yeah, they're the
of it. I'm like,
same.
This is Dan, this is Dana. I don't know.
Or so and so's mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
But and asked me to go to so it was you. He asked me to go to coffee, so I met them at Starbucks, and I wasn't even sure why. I was
Why?
I love it.
But we just literally hit it. Like they're
That's awesome.
amazing. We're just like friends now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
So that's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and our
And-
kids get along really well.
That's
Yes.
awesome.
And that's the best part about it. It was funny because like when Facebook pops up, like this person.
Yeah.
It was you.
Oh.
And we always laugh because like by the time you get to baseball practice, I'm like in sweatpants, my hair's up, I
I'm
have
always
makeup
a
on.
mess, yeah.
So it popped up, this person. And I remember I was like to Dan, I was like, Danielle Levine. He's like, that's Dylan's mom. And I was like, she's a realtor. He's like, really? Text her.
That's so funny.
That's so good.
But it's amazing also like the connections you make, on the soccer fields or on the baseball field or even in the community, which is also nice. Like the whole local aspect
Yes,
of everything
I love it.
is
I
awesome.
love it.
Being
Me
plugged
too.
in.
So
Yeah.
much more.
I know, because then you're more in tune. What does your community need? What do your kids need? Like,
Exactly.
it's so nice to be able to like be there.
Yes, and be more involved.
Yeah.
In all of it. It's so much better.
Yeah.
Remember one day I was like driving into Asbury, and it's like you're around the water and the beach, and I was like, "Thank you." I'm on a train right now, like
Oh,
like this is amazing.
yeah.
Even just like the simple thing of like you didn't realize how important it was
Yeah.
to like just watch your kids get off the bus.
Yes.
Are they smiling? Are they
Yeah.
crying? Are
Right.
they mad?
Yeah. Was
Like-
today a rough day?
Was today a rough day?
Yeah.
Why? Like
Yeah.
I was thinking about like after, I said to my husband one day, I'm like, I don't know like what this whole situation would look like if I had continued like on that path
Yeah.
and you continued here, like what would be happening?
Today.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's when you think about it, I was like, that's really sad. Like then I would be
Yeah.
paying somebody to get my kids off the bus
Right. It's like,
or
what's the
to
point?
be on the soccer field for them. And like we would miss all of that.
Yeah.
Like it
No
would
way.
not be good.
No
So you were
way.
forced to be a momtrepreneur.
Yes. Yes.
And obviously no regrets about that.
No,
That's
none,
amazing.
zero.
And you know what's so cool? Growing up, I didn't really see a lot of momtrepreneurs.
No.
I don't know. Maybe because that's just the way I grew up. Everybody had a job in a way, but nobody owned a business or like worked for themselves. So that must be amazing for your children to see that.
Yes.
Like,
They probably don't even remember when you worked in the city.
No, that's
Yeah.
the
Which
nice
is
part.
so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
They're just always going to remember you being there.
Yeah. my daughter, it's funny, one day she referenced something because they dropped me off at the train once. So like for some reason she remembers
that memory.
the train station.
Yeah.
But yeah, being there right now is great.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And it's an interesting, working with your significant other. It's rewarding because I do find, you can go through some challenging markets or obstacles maybe with employees or other things. But if you can navigate it together, it's nice. Like, and when there are big wins, it's fun to celebrate too.
Yeah, and your family, so it's like
Yeah.
you trust each other.
Exactly.
And you have each other's back no matter what.
Exactly. And everybody gets mad at, their boss or their partner.
Totally. And
Right.
You have a bad day.
Yes.
And that's where, I had to learn at first, like, don't take it, don't take it so hard or don't be
Yes.
emotional
Yeah.
or I wasn't used to also like going into a new industry and business, like being critiqued. Like, in my mind, I was the expert.
Yeah, right.
It's like,
Well, I learned quickly I wasn't.
But yeah, admitting sometimes.
Humbling.
Luckily, I'm a quick
Yeah.
study.
Admitting like I have to do this differently or approach
Yeah.
it differently. Yeah.
Oh, okay, your feedback is valid, even though I didn't want to hear it.
So is your dad taking all the credit?
Oh, yeah, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny because he loves it. Like, because
Oh my god.
we're always also exploring like new opportunities
gonna say,
or
what's on the
different
horizon,
businesses.
right?
Yeah. And opportunities. And that's the nice part for my husband probably now is, he can rely on me operationally that things are sound. So for him, it's, exploring other opportunities, whether it's in real estate,
grow.
whether it's
Yeah, I
in
love
different
that.
businesses.
Yeah.
So that's what motivates him. So it's
that.
nice. Like I think we finally figured out a good way, to maximize each other.
Yeah. That's
It's
awesome.
funny, we tell each other, like, someone once said this. It was a couple that we met at a networking event, and they had worked together for like 40 years. And she's like, you have to stay in your own lane. And if you want to cross, tell him to put on a blanker. or if he wants to cross, tell him to put on a blanker, or like you do the same. But like, don't cross the line
Right.
Cool.
inadvertently just because you can.
That's
'cause
fair.
you're
It's a
married.
level of respect. Like even right.
Yeah.
So sometimes, like, if we're getting close to that point, like, put on your blanker.
I like that.
Yeah,
That's
right?
a very good anecdote to share with any other folks out there that may
Like
work
a
with their
partner
spouse.
or a boss, because it is true. But if you're married, it's easy to,
To just
you
Right.
could obviously cross that line pretty
Right.
quickly.
Yeah.
absolutely, I'm sure.
Do you have any advice for other momtrepreneurs or other women who are thinking about working for themselves or starting a business?
I think it's not to be scared. I was scared, to
Fear,
me, like I went directly to college. I majored in fashion. I graduated 2 days later. I had a job. I had a career.
Because
I
at
had
18,
income.
you have that in your mind, right? I'm
Exactly.
going to go to college. I'm going to graduate. I'm going to get a good job. I'm going to work hard.
Yeah. And I was very programmed one dimensionally to like steer that course.
Yeah.
And I think probably like 2 or 3 years before I left that job or was, left during COVID, I wanted to make a change, but I was scared.
You felt it
Yes.
inside you.
Yes.
I don't want to do this.
I don't want to do this. But
Yeah.
I was really scared to like, be more of an entrepreneur and own a business and manage
It's a
business.
risk.
Totally.
It is a big risk.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
But
I
big risk, big rewards, right?
Absolutely. But I think it's not to be scared and to have the confidence in yourself because the skills are all transferable. It's just how you maximize it.
Yeah. Yeah. The skills that you learn at corporate, I'm sure, are completely valuable and useful
Yes.
for everything you're doing now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then I think it's nice the balance of learning the other side.
Yeah.
How to be an entrepreneur, how to maximize a business locally. What does that mean? And, especially in these industries where the relationships are the most important, how do you build those from the
Yeah.
ground up?
Yeah. I think it's so cool to see, like, obviously as a momtrepreneur, like having a vision and then implementing it. And then like being open to like doing things a different way. Because obviously even in real estate, sometimes we have to pivot. Things that worked weren't working.
Right.
Yep.
But it's having that foresight and that intuition
Yes.
of like, okay, I control the destiny. How are we going to steer this ship now?
Absolutely.
Which is pretty cool. And giving yourself that power to know that you
Absolutely.
can do that is so empowering.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
I would never know that you weren't doing this forever. I just kind of thought you and Dan were always
Together.
Yeah.
She's natural at it, right?
Yeah.
No, I guess it's been about 3 years. Yeah, 3 years. 4 years.
Wow.
Probably 4 years. Yeah.
it's wild.
And there's obviously more growth in the horizon for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So cool.
Hopefully.
Yeah. No, there will.
There will be.
If it's in your heart and it's in your vision, there will be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's great. Well, if anyone has any title needs or if you have shitty credit.
Exactly.
So I guess you're so you do title searches for people who are buying a home or refinancing, which is awesome, and then also the credit. If you have bad credit, do you guys help?
Exactly. So we, on the credit business, so we work with individuals who have negative or derogatory items on their credit. So
And a
we
lot of
help
people
them
do.
100%.
Yeah.
Especially right now. I mean,
Right.
credit card spending is at a high. Student loan, deferment is starting to set back in. People
Totally.
are living well beyond their means.
Rent's expensive.
Rent's expensive. You're starting to see defaults on credit cards and automobiles. Eventually, that'll transition to homes.
Totally.
So yeah, we help people get back on their feet,
That's awesome.
repay their debt, remove accounts from their credit, and then, ultimately get them ready to make a big purchase, whether it's a home, a car,
Right.
personal
Business,
loan,
yeah.
a business.
That's awesome.
So we work with personal and business credit.
Oh, that's awesome. So you guys help businesses too with their credit. That's awesome.
Yes. Yeah, both. And then, on the title side, we provide title insurance for residential and commercial.
That's awesome.
And with both of those businesses, we have the capacity to operate throughout majority of the United States.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even the credit part. So if people, that's awesome. They're listening in Florida or
Exactly.
California.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like that's such a huge resource, like you said, especially now.
Oh, yeah.
The
Yeah.
economy, the way it is, and everything.
And
It's
obviously,
great.
I'm sure people have credit scam issues, right? And do you help people?
Credit scam, identity theft.
And they don't realize until they pull it, and they're like, "Why is this on here?"
And some people just don't know what to do. They're
Yeah.
like, "Oh,
Right.
my loan officer just pulled a report and it's $550. I don't know how to fix this."
Yeah.
And,
Right.
and the beauty with our organization is we're not just a website that you fill in a form and you pay us a monthly service. You
Right.
talk to someone. You sign a contract, you get updates every
Customized
2
plan.
weeks. Yeah, you don't get transferred to a 1-800 number. You get a customized plan. We guarantee results.
The relationship.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
if we can't help you, then we'll tell you that.
I love it.
Yeah.
You're just
Yeah.
honest. Like,
Exactly.
yes, you could expect these results, or no, these results are not possible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And on the title side of the business, we are licensed ourselves in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania and Florida.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
smart.
Commercial and residential.
Yeah.
But through partnerships we have, I think it's upwards of 28 to 30 other states that ultimately we can service.
Yeah.
Yes. So
That's good to know.
And where can people find you? So if anybody wants or needs your information and has questions, where can they find you?
yeah, so our Facebook and Instagram is Square One Credit Management.
Okay.
And then for Leo Fortis title, it's the same thing.
How do you spell that?
LEO.
Okay.
And then FORTIS.
Okay, awesome.
Title.
That's what I thought. Just want to make
Yes.
sure.
Thank you.
But make sure to look them up. And
Yes.
I know that you guys will do great service for anybody
Yes.
who reaches out.
Definitely.
Yeah.
They're amazing.
And if, personally, you could find Dan or myself, Dana Danizik. Should have kept my last name. Of course, on the Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn.
Cool.
and
we'll
locally.
tag everything too.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
locally. Yes, very involved in the community.
Yes, yes.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much
Thank
for coming
you.
in.
Thank you,
You're
ladies, for
amazing.
having me. It was a pleasure.
Great chat. See you guys next week.
Bye.